Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. Truly, every day is full of examples as to why Justin Trudeau failed as Canada's Prime Minister. He's been awful for our economy, our security, our social cohesion, and he's even bad at defending Canada as a concept. We already know his famous line about how Canada is the world's first post national state. But when he went down to the US to attend former President Jimmy Carter's funeral, he went on a bit of a media circuit of the more center left to left outlets, and he did an abysmal job trying to defend the existence of Canada, why Canada matters, what is the culture of Canada. Check this out. Here's a clip from when he was on Jake Tapper's show on CNN.
President-elect Trump has been needling you a bit, calling you Governor Trudeau, talking about making Canada the 51st state. Did you have any interaction with him today?
No, not today. But that's not going to happen. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian. One of the ways we define ourselves most easily is, well, we're not American.
Why would you say that? Can I just jump in here and say that if you are tasked with defining what it means to be Canadian and you say not being American, you have failed, you have lost your job as a Canada explainer. This guy is the prime minister of the country, been prime minister for almost 10 years, and he cannot figure out a way of actually defining what it means to be Canadian when he goes on to US media. It's basically that we're just a bunch of spiteful non-Americans.
There is such a depth of pride that's not actually an issue. What I think is happening in this is President Trump, who's a very skillful negotiator, is getting people to be somewhat distracted by that.
You've just figured this out? You took the bait. How long did it take you to figure this out? It's like I and like a few other people, obviously many of you in the audience agreed with me that Trump was just trying to mess with Canadian diplomats and trade negotiators by throwing out this red herring. But he didn't seem to understand that at the time, but he's pretending like, oh, I understand Trump. He's a very good negotiator. I know his tactics. You obviously didn't because you took the bait and were like setting your hair on fire about Canada not joining as the 51st state.
By that conversation, to take away from the conversation around 25% tariffs on oil and gas and electricity and steel and aluminum and lumber and concrete and everything the American consumers buy from Canada is suddenly going to get a lot more expensive if he moves forward on these tariffs. And that's something that I think we need to be focusing on a little bit more.
I will give him that is a perfectly legitimate point on why a 25% tariff on Canadian exports into the US would be a bad thing. By the way, when did we lose the thread during the last couple of weeks that the tariffs are not actually going to happen as long as we do basic border security? Like, Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta, who I can sometimes be critical of, seems to understand this. They're going to put drones along the US Alberta border. They're going to put more police in the area, beef up border security. It really doesn't cost all that much. But for some reason, we've like memory holed Trump's whole point about the border and why the 25% tariffs might come into place. And we've just, because we want to have a fight with the US and we want to pretend to be big and tough, or at least our liberal and NDP politicians want to pretend to be big and tough, when all we had to do, like what Smith's done and like what Pierre Poilievre's done, is just say, okay, we'll work with you guys to beef up border security, but you guys have to do it too because we don't want illegal guns coming into Canada. Perfect. And then you get idiots like David Eby, who's like, we need to have a counter plan to fight the U.S. economically. We need to put counter tariffs on them. Jagmeet Singh saying this stuff. You get liberals saying this stuff. I'm like, guys, let's not do that because it's stupid. Also, David Eby, you're the main fentanyl trafficker in this country. So maybe at the family dinner table of all the provinces and territories, you shouldn't speak on this one because you're kind of the problem when it comes to Canada having a very loose border for drugs and whatnot, because you're the main drug problem because you've decriminalized drugs in your province. Anyways, I need to move on to this next clip, which is somehow worse from Justin Trudeau. That was more of a failed attempt to defend Canada, that big swing and a miss. Now we have this clip where Trudeau trying to justify Canada again, or trying to snipe back at Trump, because it is smart that with Trump jabbing Canada, and it's obviously meant to kind of be funny to Americans, that Canadians should say something funny as well. If anything, and I don't know why I have to say this, Elizabeth May actually had a kind of good response like a week ago when she said, Canada doesn't want to be the 51st state, but what about California being the 11th province? It's, combating a silly statement by Trump with an equally silly statement, even though Elizabeth May is a ridiculous politician. It really is a broken clock is right twice a day kind of a situation with Elizabeth May, because usually she just says something silly anyways, but it happened to line up in this case. But here we go. Here is a video of Justin Trudeau basically attacking Canadian provinces by trying to crib Elizabeth May's strategy. But before I get into this, guys, reminder, if you like this channel, around 70% of you watching right now are not actually subscribers. And if you do subscribe, I will pop up more in your feed more often. You'll be able to see when my latest video comes out to the second. So make sure you go like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you also are notified when I put out new content so you can watch it when it's actually fresh. And without further ado, here is the second clip of Trudeau on Jen Psaki's show, this time, I believe, on MSNBC.
I'm assuming he didn't bring up his intention to publicly say he was going to annex through economic means your country.
It actually sort of came up at one point, and then
he's talking about it came up at one point when he was at Mar-a-Lago.
And then we started musing back and forth about this. And when I started to suggest, well, maybe there could be a trade for Vermont or California for certain parts,
you can even see he trails off there, because when he starts talking about how there can be a trade for California and Vermont for certain other, and he was going to say provinces, and then he realized how stupid that is. And at this point, why doesn't he just let loose and say he hates Alberta and Saskatchewan? Just say it. Come on, you're not even going to be the prime minister by like mid-March, so just blast off, dude. But imagine that. He somehow screwed up. Elizabeth May, resident NyQuil connoisseur, he somehow screwed up Elizabeth May, the Green Party leader's line, by then implying that there are certain provinces that he dislikes and would like to trade away. By the way, this is the most yeah, that totally happened, man, story I've ever heard. Justin Trudeau did not have this exchange with Donald Trump. He just realizes he has to retcon his dinner at Mar-a-Lago to make it look like he was in there. He was, he was jabbing too. They were having a good time. Trudeau was like basically going down to Mar-a-Lago hat in hand, and he was being messed with. Everyone knows that he was being messed with because Trump dislikes him. Even let's just jump over to here, a good clip from a guy I actually don't mind, even though everyone hates his guts. John Bolton made this point that Trump, and he's not even someone who likes Trump, and he just makes the point, yeah, Trump's obviously kidding, and he's just trying to mess with Trudeau because he doesn't like Trudeau. I guarantee you, Trudeau was not Mar-a-Lago trading jokes with Trump. He probably got jabbed by Trump and got really scared and didn't say anything, because this is the first time we've heard this story from Trudeau that he was making this idea that we should then take Vermont from you guys.
Because we talked about the so-called kiss the ring approach a number of weeks ago. Given the fact that he sort of doubled down on so much of the rhetoric, do you think the same approach is still worthwhile pursuing?
Well, I would just say it was Justin Trudeau that went down to kiss the ring. He doesn't like Justin Trudeau. He thinks he's a Twinkie. And
I do like that. He thinks he's a Twinkie.
I mean, Canada's in a difficult position now. You don't have an election until later in the year. The Liberal Party has to pick a new leader. Trump doesn't like Chrystia Freeland either.
And let's be clear. Do we think that Trump's going to like Mark Carney? Do we think that he's going to like Frank Baylis? Chandra Arya, that other guy who's running? Probably not. I think, again, once Poilievre becomes prime minister, which has like a 99% likelihood of happening, I think him and Trump are going to get along fine. Because the reality here is that Trump respects people who have the capacity to push back, who have the capacity to be tough. That's why Trump seems to have an affinity for sometimes respecting dictators in such a way I actually disagree with. Probably don't be too nice to like the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Don't be too nice to Xi Jinping. Don't say that you're friends. I think it's just not a generally good rhetorical strategy. But the whole point is, the lesson here is that Trump likes people who are in command, who seem in control and are not petty and fussy. And even then, Trump even has the ability to be a little petty, but that's not the type of way I'm talking about where like you don't like people saying bad things about you. I mean, like, Justin Trudeau is constantly harping on about tiny details, talking about like inclusion and things that are just fussy and annoying. Inclusion and diversity, and we need to respect everyone and make everyone feel included. It's like, stop. That's what makes Trump not like you. People can like or dislike Trump, and people think in seemingly liberal circles and even some conservative circles that understanding Trump is anti-Canadian. I seem to be like getting like people thinking like, oh, Wyatt doesn't care about the about the U.S. annexing Canada. Because I knew it was a joke, somehow I'm less patriotic because I refused to take the bait the way that Justin Trudeau and Melanie Joly and Jagmeet Singh and so many other politicians did. The good thing is conservative MPs didn't take the bait. Honestly, Elizabeth May didn't take the bait. Stop like equating patriotism with being irrationally mad at the US over nothing, over a joke. Anyways, so that is it for me today, guys. Reminder, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the show financially, you can always donate to the Give, Send, Go legal fund. I have linked both in the description below as well as pinned to the top of the comments. I'll see you guys next time. I have probably another video coming out because the news is absolutely chock full these days, even though I was sad to see Justin Trudeau go. Maybe actually on the way out here, I need to play this stupid meme. This is for all of you people who like to stick to the very end of the video. I like this stupid meme that I put up that's representative of my attitude towards Justin Trudeau right now, because as crappy of a prime minister as he is, I'm going to miss the guy when he's finally gone in mid-March, because goodness, could you imagine having to talk about Mark Carney at length? The man is the color beige personified. Chrystia Freeland, same thing. This is me whenever I hear Justin Trudeau's back in the news.
What's he up to, man? What's he doing?
I am beaming with like pride every time he makes a headline, and like he's my own son, because oh my goodness, he's done well by Canadian commentators who actually get to talk about something interesting. He's probably doing something horribly wrong, but at least it's interesting to talk about. Mark Carney's going to do things equally wrong, but it's going to be like boring bureaucratic things. Anyways, so that's it. See you guys later.